Hinomori Shizuku is truly more than meets the eye in far more ways than one, demonstrated over the course of many event stories and definitely including her third focus event. This event continues by expanding massively on one characteristic of hers that had only shown through brief mentions yet permeate her personality and cement her character as one of extreme perseverance. Flying higher than any other, start dashing past the competition and embodying what it means to be a leader, Shizuku carries Momo Jump itself on her shoulders. How she does this is told deliberately, not just through the visual novel, but through the lyrics of the event song, the art featured in the trained cards, and in recognizing one's own stagnation. I'll look to uncover it all with this overanalysis of Hinomori Shizuku's 5th focus event, also known as Grow, Glorious, Glow. As usual, spoilers coming up for the event story of Shizuku5 and any more Jump stories before it, as well as a little bit on the side stories from this event as well. The title is literally about aura farming, growing a glorious glow. This is in direct reference to what Shizuku wants to do and ends up doing by the end of the event story. Speaking of which, the first thing you see when you load up the event story is the Untrained card art for Shizuku, which in itself is a spoiler as to how the event plays out, and its partner card in crime, the Untrained card art for Minori, also spoils the result. But I can definitely confirm this story is not about the destination, it's all about the journey there. We're going to have so much more to say about Aura and this Shizuku card art when we get there in the event story overanalysis, but for now, let's get some necessary context with a very quick story summary. The story begins with Shizuku waiting for an audition, before going back in time to the first offer MMJ has gotten in a while, asking that Shizuku audition for an eyeshadow advert by a huge company named Grand Fleur. Given it's a massive opportunity and no other offers are coming in, Shizuku goes for it with the blessings of the rest of MMJ. At the audition, she meets Hagiyama Yu from Relight. There are 3 judges for the audition, and Shizuku recognizes one of them, Oikawa, as a big shot creative director from when she was in Cheerful Days. Trying to win all of the judges' approval, including Oikawa, Shizuku considers what the product is trying to say and communicates that through her poses. Oikawa's review is that she seems different from before. Nevertheless, they seem more interested in Shizuku than the previous auditionees, and she is dismissed. Hagiyama Yu auditions next and is regarded to be much more impressive in an aura that is too bright. Both Shizuku and Yu get the 2 places for the advert, but simply getting through isn't enough for Shizuku. She admits to the others in Sekai that she feels scared of the difference in skill, and the words of Oikawa haunt her for a bit. Later at the fitting, unable to bear her uneasiness, she leaves the room for fresh air and then overhears staff members talking to Oikawa. This reveals that he personally asked for Shizuku to audition, hoping to see that same brilliant aura he saw before. When asked how she could do that back then, the old Shizuku replied, "Because I'm the leader of Cheerful Days." Trying to find out what made the old her stand out so much, Shizuku, alongside Miku, watches back her younger self practicing, and the old her is almost unrecognizable. Determined, yes, but also desperate. Shizuku reflects that while being accepted for who she is made her comfortable with being herself, it also made her soft. She's no longer being hard on herself or striving to shine brighter, and has instead grown complacent with who she is, and her skills and aura faded away. Learning from this, even though she's already in the advert, she aims to train to ludicrous, desperate degrees, imagining that she is leading and carrying Momo Jump on her shoulders, similar to how she would have done while being the lead of Cheerful Days, and assuring herself that she needs to shine brighter than anyone. She is so determined that she is said to practice this late into the evening at the Momo house, and yet still arrives earlier than the others to continue the next morning. So focused, she doesn't even acknowledge Minori when she calls out to her. At the shoot, she seems like an entirely different character, filled with determination and radiating aura. Though the staff want to focus on Hagiyama, who seemed better in the auditions, everyone is ridiculously impressed with Shizuku when the cameras start rolling, with Oikawa noting that she's far surpassed her old Cheerful Days self. During this, Shizuku says she doesn't know what aura even is, but proceeds to give her own definition. There, in front of the cameras, after tireless work and effort, does she emit the brightest, most glorious glow. Then the advert goes well and everyone's happy. There is so much more to unpack in the full event story, but for now, let's take a look at the card arts. First off, the 3 untrained card arts for Shizuku, Minori and Miku will appear in the event story, so we'll talk about them during the overanalysis to have the full context. But that does leave us with one more untrained card, Haruka's. It's just an untrained, so it doesn't have deep symbolism or anything, but features Haruka chefing it up a little. In the side story, while thinking nutrition first when shopping for ingredients to support Shizuku, Haruka comes up with the idea of wrapping these ingredients into tortillas, or rather letting Shizuku do that with whichever ingredient she wants. Again, there's not exactly any deep symbolism in here, but I appreciate this look into the Mormor house. Well, there's a lot more going on when you see it in person. Haruka's penguin apron, and that the content stream brain is strong, and she's sure to make the most of this. Moving on to the trained cards. Technically, Iris is here as a 2-star, but basically all of the theming present in Iris card will be present in bigger ways on the others. So we're gonna skip her. I know we have some Iris fans in the audience. She's my second favourite character. Her time will come. On to Haruka's trained 3-star card. The first thing to notice is that all of the cards are very blue, to the point where there seems to be a blue glow over the entire artwork, which can cause making out some of these colours to be a little difficult. Colours will be very important in these card arts. First off, that blue glow present in all of them can represent that glorious glow that Shizuku harnesses in his event story, radiating to every art. This is a bit of a reach, considering it's arguably more like Haruka's kind of blue, but I mean, they all have an aura anyway. In any case, we have these horns behind Haruka, representing victory fanfare on theme with the event song. This, the podium-looking thing Haruka's on, and the checkerboard flags and patterns present in all of the cards give the theme of racing and reaching the finish line. It represents Shizuku falling behind you in the auditions and attempting to channel all of her efforts into getting ahead of her, getting ahead of everyone, and winning the race. On Haruka's card, she's sitting on the top podium, coloured in her shade of blue, with second place showing Irie pink, Minori orange, and here's where the blue hue on the cards makes things a little harder to make out. But first, why is Haruka above them? I think this represents Haruka's new place as the producer of Mormor Jump, and she does hold a kind of elite position due to her reputation and experience in Azeron. Irie has all the makings of a great idol, but wasn't able to exert that in QTs down to being pushed as a variety show comedian instead. So how does Haruka stand above Shizuku? Well, she doesn't. Your typical victory podium celebrates the top 3, but we only see 2 places here on Haruka's card. The camera looks down from above, and I don't know about you, but it doesn't feel like Haruka's looking directly into the camera here. I think she's actually looking at something just above. On the podium, that isn't Shizuku blue. We can see that shade on the balloons nearby. That is just the green of Mormor Jump's clover, because first place, Shizuku, is soaring high above, and Haruka couldn't be a prouder producer. The idea that Shizuku's full power of idol aura massively exceeds the elite perfect Haruka says a lot about who Shizuku is, the kind of efforts she puts in, and the results she gets out, with or without the Cheerful Days persona and backup. We also get the first show of these wings. More on them later. Going up a little, we get to Minori's friend card, and boy do I hope you're ready for some over-analysis. Minori is literally more jumping at the finish line, but how high did you jump? Are you gonna be okay? There's so many things here, so let's start with the bottom right. Here we have a bunch of checkered flags in a kind of pattern. Again, we have that MMJ clover green, followed by Minori orange, green again, then Irie pink. I would bet you my entire 1-star Akito that if this art continued, you'd see green again, then Haruka blue, then green, then Shizuku blue, representing support for all of Mormor Jump, from all of Mormor Jump. The support continues in these floating metal ring things, I don't know what to call them. The balloons have the colours of all of the Mormor Jump members and a clover. The flags of Fight and MMJ, which obviously foreshadow Mormor Jump's fighting game in 8th anniversary. I'd love it to be, but I don't think it's a reference to Shizuku's name suggestion of more fight in the main story. Oh, I'm sorry, apparently it's more gusto! There's a green traffic light signifying both Mormor Jump's colour and for them to charge ahead at full speed. And of course, it bears a reference to Minori's song, Jumpin' Over. There's a reference in this art I think only a handful of people will have gotten, and that's this blue bird. Generically, it's not too hard to get, but the specific reference in Sekai is quite niche. Yes, Shizuku does just like little birdies, and that is reflected across multiple card arts, but this bird being blue is relevant. Hello, yes, I am that English teacher telling you why the curtains are blue. I am aware we're over-analyzing, but with symbolism that runs this deep, how could I not? Of the 2 bluebird references in universe I can think of, the less important is the bluebird purchased by Mizuki and installed with the birthday wishes of many of Shizuku's friends, as seen in the Part 2 Birthday 2023 or 2024 in the EN version card story. So, symbolising good wishes and support from friends. However, the reason Mizuki would have bought this bluebird in the first place harkens back to a card story even further back from Mizuki and Shizuku's mixed event, What's on Your Mind? Exciting Picnic. Mizuki's 4-star card features Mizuki finding Shizuku, who is looking at a map of London, and they go to the same sewing lounge for the first time together. While Shizuku is embroidering handkerchiefs for more jump, she also makes one for Mizuki. When asked, Shizuku explains that she just likes little birds and it symbolizes her hopes that Mizuki will find her way to happiness. Indeed, blue birds are a symbol of joy and hope, and the idea that good things are coming your way. Not only foreshadowing Shizuku's triumph in the trials of this event story, but likely all future successes of more jump. Her giving this blue bird to Mizuki represented Shizuku hoping whatever was bothering her would end well. And if you kept up with N25, we know how that plotline goes now, and I've got 2 videos on it if you want. Its appearing in this Minori card art shows not only Shizuku's hopes for Minori, but of course, Minori's hopes for Shizuku to do well in this event story, as with her instantly springing to support Shizuku in any way she can. What's more interesting than those isolated colours on the balloons and such are the way some colours combine on some of these objects. Straightforwardly, we have these megaphones on the left side. These represent Airi and Shizuku as they were the first to support Minori's dance practice during the main story, while Haruka just kinda observed. Airi and Shizuku's colours together also represent how they've supported each other during their times before and during more jump. Next, we have this banner with a Minori orange background and a green MMJ clover. Although someone else shows traits of leadership in this event story, at the end of the day, there would be no more jump without Minori. And she's literally more jumping in this card art. Something I've just noticed now is that this is not how the more jump clover is usually drawn. There seems to be a 4th, smaller leaf growing out of it, and since we're overanalyzing, this represents the ongoing character growth of Minori, who is becoming as skilled and heartful as the 3 other leaves in the clover. And if this is true, then a kind of on-the-nose way, it's literally pointing at Minori. Additionally, there's this crown on the clover. This could reference, for one, victory, as more jump arrive at the finish line and Shizuku overtakes Yu in the story, but can also be a callback to Minori's second focus event, where she's depicted as the queen piece on the chessboard. This banner turns to a checkered flag of white and green, but is it really green? Yes, it's green, it's just brighter on this side of the confetti, but this bright green can look eerily teal, kinda like when people can't decide if Miku has green or blue hair. But speaking of that, we have another checkered flag behind Minori in her colour. Checkered orange, white, and very clearly Shizuku blue. This combination represents Minori's support of Shizuku as she sprang to help her when she found out she had quit Cheerful Days, but also how much Shizuku supports Minori, evident in the main story and Shizuku3. These blue squares showing behind Minori feel almost ominous, like Shizuku is hiding in Minori's shadow. Or the interpretation of her simply supporting Minori checks out. It can also represent how Minori, the supposed leader of more jump, is being overtaken by Shizuku as well, who exclaims to herself that she will lead more jump. I don't think Shizuku's planning a coup d'etat to overthrow her, but she is definitely shining brighter and jumping higher. Them working together though is supported by the wing emblem in the balloons, showing the same clover and wing symbol, but unlike their badges, there are 2 wings on this one in Shizuku's colour and one in Minori's, suggesting that they can not only support each other, but also lead more jump together. And way up in the heavens, we have Shizuku's trained card art. She is flying far above the clouds in the Ether Realms, and with it, carrying more jump's banner. But we'll come back to that. Of course, her flying this high both means that she really is glowing brighter than anyone, and alongside the wing theming present in all cards, she's flying high like an angel, and once again, we see her with the wing symbol added to the clover. The singular wing symbol is only on their 3rd anniversary base outfits, and Minori's in-universe idol outfit. They didn't have this wing in their original one, so it appearing for Sekai's 3rd anniversary shows more jump's growth as a group and how they're flying to new heights, with Minori sporting it on her idol outfit with the 3 feathers symbolizing her being an angel. This singular wing reappears in Shizuku5 specifically, and while it does call back to those base outfits representing more jump as a whole, and that's all I thought it was at first, it really does appear again on every group member, only in Shizuku5. What was primarily Minori's symbol is now being used to represent everyone in more jump, and Shizuku is carrying this symbol by herself way up in the heavens. She not only stole the symbol of the group leader, but she also stole her angel symbolism, and this all represents how Shizuku is well and truly aiming to carry more jump by herself in this story. So, why only one wing? One-winged angels mean fallen angels, incomplete and fallen from grace. This can have very unholy undertones, but I think the falling from grace is far more relevant to the event story, as Shizuku confronts her own complacency, not measuring up to her peak performance as the leader of Cheerful Days. That being said, her flying above the heavens with only the one wing shows a tremendous amount of determination. This one wing also is on theme with all of the outfit designs and their asymmetry, representing, as always, the divide between the Cheerful Days Shizuku and the current Shizuku. Having them in one outfit, just like Shizuku5, represents both of them being one and the same, and through this, she can achieve those heights. And completely on theme with bringing out and carrying these versions of herself, we have the colours on the flagpole. Once again, the blue hue does make things kinda hard to make out, and I've even determined some of them through process of elimination, but on this left side at the top of the pole, we have a 3-leaf clover with Haruka blue, Irie pink, and Minori orange or brown. It looks suspiciously purple, but hold your horses. There's another clover that looks more metallic, attached by a chain like a charm or keyring, with 3 other colours: MMJ green, Shizuku blue, and Cheerful Days purple. Not only does this refer to Shizuku's old self as we just discussed, but deliberately putting the colours of MMJ green and Cheerful Days purple together with Shizuku blue shows the two sides of herself becoming one. The way it's attached like a charm has meaning too. Initially in the event story, since it's the only offer they'd received in ages and they needed to do something. Doing it for Irie, Haruka, and Minori is represented by the solidly attached clover at the top of the flagpole alongside the angel wing. But in order to actually shine brighter than you and everyone else, she needed to reflect and revive her old self, her old resolve, and thus, she attaches these pieces of the past and present to the flagpole, aiming to take these forward with her, carrying the teams themselves and herself who had grown too comfortable, high into the sky and far past the finish line. Like how she only realises to do this after the audition, it's attached as an afterthought like a charm, but it worked like one too. And as well as this, if you take the name and story of her Colorfest card, this purple colour on the charm could also represent Arisa. Finally, we also have her pose. She is gazing into the viewer's eyes with full determination, looking over her shoulder. What was the pose suggested by Oikawa back when he thought she had peak idol aura energy? This pose, this look, proves that she still has that kind of aura, and has gone far past it due to her acceptance of both sides of herself, represented by the charm. Oikawa actually recommended this pose because she was shining too brightly back in those Cheerful Days days. And so by similarly subduing her presence in this card, shows just how bright she really shines. And just to add to the Cheerful Days representation, in Minori's card, those floating ring thingies, they're purple. Finally, we have Miku. Miku's card is mostly blue, but does have some dabs of green representing her support of More Jump from the sidelines in Sekai. She's also carrying a banner, this time with a unique design of crossed green feathers and the More Jump clover. It's a good time to mention that feathers and angel wings are more of Minori's kind of symbolism. The emblem on Miku's banner can be seen as angel wings on a clover, an angel's clover, if you will. We see some flying screens showing the clover along with these megaphones with the colours of the More Jump members. You can just about see another one of those Irie and Shizuku coloured ones as well. The colours get more difficult to make out here, but you can see some Irie pink flags alongside some orange megaphones on the other platform, and then a Minori orange flag alongside some pink megaphones. These two also were very big supporters of Shizuku, particularly as soon as they heard that Shizuku had quit Cheerful Days. These massive billboards below are also shown with the members' colours, and you kinda see this orange one through the clover design on the railings, giving the same impression again of Minori representing More Jump itself. Also, this is a great time to shout out how More Jump Miku is the only one without an alternative hairstyle. That about covers the trained cards in any case, and we can move on to the similarly themed 2D and 3D MVs for the event song Hashiru! Tooku! Todoku! Meaning, run! Distance! Reach it! If you're translating literally like a caveman. Or run to reach somewhere far away. I have broken my voice, I need to recover. Straight away, the way it's written with each word as an individual exclamation feels like a kind of cheering chant, supporting More Jump on their race to the finish. The dance has moves reminiscent of racing and running, flapping wings and heart attacks. A lot of the dancing supports the lyrics being said, but I can't say I have nearly as much on it as I did with I Am We Are. What I can note is the stage. The predominant colour is blue, Shizuku's teal shade of blue, as are the glow sticks from most of the audience. There are plenty of More Jump clovers adorning the stage, and on closer inspection, though tinted, you can still make out the colours of the More Jump members on them. There are numerous arrows stuck in the floor and a massive one that pierces the heart in the background. All of these arrows are golden with a heart on the tip as a reference to Cupid arrows, simply representing the power of Shizuku's aura in this event and how her gaze will pierce your heart. Her being a skilled archer works very well with this theme. Are there any other significant golden arrows in fiction? Wait, Shizuku, no, you don't need stand power! Going back to colours, the arrow lights on the stage alternate between Shizuku blue and MMJ green until the chorus kicks in, and then everything becomes blue. That alternating shows Shizuku carrying and leading Momo Jump in the story. And this is a great time to start talking about the lyrics. The song and the chorus largely revolve around already knowing who the winner or leading actor is. Who will cut the swaying tape? The answer to that goes without saying. The song is the absolute antithesis, the polar opposite of one of Shizuku's main character struggles, her self-confidence, or lack thereof. Much of Shizuku's story dialogue revolves around not being good enough, everyone else being better, and we even see a part of it in the first half of this event story as she compares herself to Yu in the audition. But in this song, we hear a lot of bold, confident claims of already winning and demanding attention for it. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. The first verse line distribution is already absolute cinema. Minori's line, our shared goal, sitting ahead of us, is given to her because not only is she the core of Momo Jump, but she has given most of the direction for the entire group, and primarily had set the goal of performing at the Dome. The next line, will continue to grow distant and hazy, is given to Haruka due to not only her critical thinking of most of their ideas, like wondering if relying on fans is really the right thing to do in the early event stories, but it also calls back to her perspective from the main story, where she saw being an idol again as a hazy, distant dream, like a blur of blue from the audience glow sticks that she thinks she'll never see again. Who will cut the swaying tape from Irie refers to who will arrive at the finish line first as a metaphor for Shizuku seeking to outshine Yu after the auditions. This would naturally be a rhetorical question when asked by Irie, as if you asked her who the best idol is, we all know who she'll say. And in a 180 of character development, the last line comes from Shizuku. The answer to that goes without saying. The abrupt change she forces upon herself in episode 5 comes with massive determination and confidence, heavily contrasting the comparisons she would make between herself and her peers against the others in the audition, and in past events and flashbacks. More or less, the lyrics are analogous to the event story if you take a couple of liberties. But to zoom in on the chorus, we get the lines, "We run to deliver our message to that faraway place," the preview of the expanding future. Taking this directly to the event story, Shizuku is grasping onto this one opportunity Momo Jump has received in order to carry the entire group forward and get them all out of this rut. Winning this audition seems so difficult with Yu taking the lead and all this pressure on Shizuku, thus it being in that faraway place. And this expanding future can refer to not only restoring Momo Jump's reputation through the success of the advert, but also the ever-growing goals of Momo Jump, like going from live streams to their own solo show, to the Dome, and probably beyond that. Kicking it off, becoming wings, we fly to the ends of the earth. Again, we have those wings representing not only Minori, but Shizuku's ability to fly higher than everyone and glow brighter than anyone like an angel, with the ends of the earth just representing a bit more of the same. It means how they'll go to whatever lengths necessary to achieve their goals, like the mad amount of focus and practice Shizuku undergoes. The second part of the chorus has this "one more" chant alongside the lines, "Who's the leading actor, you ask? You'll get it right away, right? So please, look at me." This returns to that cool and confident Shizuku we were talking about, and goes directly to the climax of the event story. Who's the leading actor between Shizuku and Yu? You'll understand the moment you see it, so please, look at me. At the end of the 3DMV, this is paired with Shizuku's wink and she's just aura farming even here. I think the "one more" chanting can mean anything from one more chance, one more take, one more photo, one more look, or even just literally one more. Fitting since the kinda antagonist of the story isn't really Yu, it's Oikawa. Mind, antagonist doesn't mean inherently evil, just the main opposition of the protagonist. Antagonists don't even have to be characters in the story. To add to that simple "one more," this repetitive mantra can be a reference to Shizuku's training, as when criticizing herself, she would often just say, "more." The second verse, only in the full version of the song, takes a darker tone both in the lyrics, relatively speaking anyway, and in the music video. I'm sure everyone lives like that too. Seems like they had their own trials and milestones. Without criticizing them, will you face forward with dignity? This verse goes straight with those early parts of the event story where "they" refers to Yu. Shizuku realizes the strength in Yu's resolve, her own reasons for being here and needing to succeed in the auditions, i.e. her trials and milestones. Shizuku does get essentially second place in the audition and tries to face forward, but struggles and is frightened when comparing the two of them. So, can she still face forward with dignity. It's also a kind of acceptance of how nothing's ever that easy. Through Shizuku's complacency explored in this story, it's easy to think you can just float on by with your best intentions like she does in the audition. By watching herself fall short of Oikawa and her own expectations, she's forced to witness these trials and milestones everyone has to go through. The next verse follows this part of the story as well. After making a mistake and falling down, you can think that this is okay. Miku sings this, and it's appropriate since she's the one who supports Shizuku during episode 5, and can be seen as a reassurance that there's still things she can do. But there's a second way to view this in line with the story, which is that thinking this is okay is exactly Shizuku's problem. She has grown too used to being comforted by her new fans and more jump that she had forgotten to push herself further, and there is so much to say about this when we get to this part in the event story analysis, so hold tight. The next 2 lines from Shizuku are, so that you can grow to love yourself just like how you worry for someone else. Ah man, it's such a Shizuku line. Shizuku's growth from Shizuku 1 to Shizuku 3 are all about worrying for other people. Whether that's what the fans think of her persona or lack thereof, or worrying about Minori's lack of TV experience, or whether or not Jump will worry about her due to her appearance with Cheerful Days. There is one person who Shizuku is not caring about so much in all of this, and that's Shizuku. She doesn't consider herself, even in Shizuku 1. Her choosing to be herself is beneficial, yes, but at the end of the day, she was making her choice based on what was good for spreading hope to her fans in the long term. And even so, it was just a choice with not a lot of action being pushed behind it. Completely the opposite to that, we have Shizuku5, where the primary care is on herself. She propels herself to carry Jump and become a leader, but this is the one time where her primary focus hasn't been what Jump is worrying about or what the fans think, and instead is about how brightly she can glow. For once, it's almost a matter of pride, something we seldom see in Shizuku. That kind of care she normally directs at others, she's finally directing at herself. Just like how she would cheer on and push Minori and Irie to be their best, she can do it herself if she really tries. Okay, there's so much to say on this topic later on. Again, hold tight. The next chorus tells us what message they're delivering is. This is still just the prelude. Following the second verse, we're still in that training arc from the story, and it's like saying there's still time for her to train and glow brightly. The next lines, our voices, resounding on the water's surface, are being conveyed like the waves. This is a great time to mention the 2DMV taking place on the water's very clear surface, showing a perfect reflection of the clouds above. Water is very much on theme for Shizuku, whose name literally means droplet. Resounding on the water's surface as well plays into that reflection angle, which shows the duality between Cheerful Days and Jump Shizuku. And this message being conveyed like the waves alongside the visuals of the 2DMV suggests a storm rather than a gentle ocean, perhaps referencing just how hard this realization hits Shizuku and thus the resulting magnitude of the action she takes. The bridge leading to the final chorus has a line from each MMJ member with some cute symbolisms, gently untangling the knots, stitching up our frayed hearts. This line from Haruka and Irie have that sewing theme to go with Shizuku's embroidery hobby, as well as the title of Shizuku 3 at the end of the Unravelled Thread, where that thread led to Arisa and Cheerful Days, bound by fate. If you really look into it, then untangling the knot and stitching up the heart with regards to this thread means smoothing the connection between Jump Shizuku and Cheerful Days Shizuku, and also fixing up her current self with some of that Cheerful Days thread, so to speak, as that's where she finds her solution. Minori's line, "We laugh as if we are blooming," is given to her not only for her jovial nature, but her name, Hanasato, which literally means flower village, referring to herself and the group blooming as flowers as they grow in experience. The last line of the bridge is of course from Shizuku, "We're living as if we're alive." Yes, that tends to be how it works. It plays into that repetition and self-assurance as seen in I Am, We Are, and just emphasizes Shizuku's sense of self-worth and pride. Rather than just existing in complacent comforts with Jump, she has to take action for her group to really feel alive. Speaking of repetition, the end of the bridge repeats "Watashi o dareka," leading to "Watashi o mitsukete," or "Someone, please find me." This could simply be Shizuku speaking to the audience and Oikawa, hoping to be found in the same way the chorus says, "Please look at me," but could also be said from the perspective of old Shizuku, who boasted that powerful aura and work ethic, desperately desiring to be found because she wants to help Jump and the current Shizuku. The final chorus repeats the same message from that second chorus, saying that this is still just the prelude, showing that even at the end of all of this, there's so much more room to grow and many more things to look forward to. The line from the previous chorus is "Sugu wakaru desho," changes to "Mo wakatta desho," turning from future tense to this playful present tense. Ugh, come on, you already know it, don't you? Because surely by now, you definitely know Shizuku's the winner. The final line in both the short and long versions is from Shizuku. It changes subtly from mitekure to mitetene. Simply, this is changing from look at me to keep looking at me, like implying more jump, or specifically Shizuku, flying higher and higher is just gonna keep going, and she's so full of confidence in that, she's telling you to keep watching as she does. Also, ne makes it kind of a confirming question, like to say, you'll keep watching me, right? Imbuing it with even more confidence that she already knows you'll be watching, not just because you're her fan. You are, right? Because she knows you can't take your eyes off her. The final look in the 2DMV is that confident holding of eye contact, further knowing you cannot look away, but replicating that piercing gaze from the event story. And that's it for the lyrics, but there's still some bits of the 2DMV we just have to look at closer. Like, really close. This font is tiny! There's a lot of text in this 2DMV, and all of the lyrics come with the singer's names in brackets, sometimes feeling like a Monogatari edit. The very beginning shows the place is Sekai, blue sky, virtual world, start line. At 9:32 and it's sunny. At 2:37 we get to the passing point in the same blue sky, but it turns to rainy weather in the unknown virtual world, with the brackets no longer knowing where they are. We see these branching paths and the route Jump and Shizuku take. That little text just says, location, turning point. So while they don't know where they are, they at least see the forks in the roads. This leads to a scene with a brighter world, the sky is visible in this puddle, and they trip on a rock, inverting the colours back to grey. The following scene shows Airi, Minori and Haruka in the bright left side of the screen, but Shizuku remains in the dark. There's still more ahead, but let's take a moment to overanalyze. While the lyric analysis still applies in this song being analogous to the event story, the 2DMV story can apply more to Jump as a whole. It all starts with them happy in these bright blue skies looking towards the finish line, which could be their goal of performing at the Dome, for example. The world turning grey is likely a sign of what happened at the end of Airi 5 when they stopped getting any offers. And then they rely on Shizuku to find them a way out through this Grand Fleur audition, and so these footprints we see leading them at each turning point are Shizuku's. Another interpretation could be of what these turning points are. There are 3 in total before reaching the puddle, and it could be Shizuku's decision to be herself in Shizuku 1, to accept the IHAS show in Shizuku 3, and either accept Saito as their manager in Shizuku 4, or go for the Grand Fleur audition in Shizuku 5, or any combination of 3. Either way, these being Shizuku's tracks are supported by the rest of them being in the bright light, and her being left in the dark. This tripping into the puddle that takes place right before represents her not doing well in the audition. Our next time check is at 6:42, with no idea where we are, but it's still raining. In this darker chorus, everyone is looking far more desperate as they run in this rainstorm. There's a droplet of water falling into the puddle as well, showing again that Shizuku has fallen. Might be a reach, but remember how she's a one-winged angel? Yeah? Anyway, next up we see the characters again, but their eyes are mostly out of frame. And with the line, "Please look at me," we see the inverted outline of Shizuku closing her eyes. It's showing both a sense of shame, as Shizuku thinks the rest of Jump will not look at her in her current weak state, and shows a lack of confidence as she can't hold their glare or bear to look at them. Miku shows up on the side, I think in reference to how she appears at Shizuku's side during episode 5. Then at 2:13, that's AM by the way, we're no longer in the unknown virtual world, and no we're in a puddle. But this quickly brightens up as time passes all the way to bright sun at 11:42. As we gaze into the reflection in the puddle, we see all of the Jump members and 3-leaf clovers floating on the surface. If Shizuku is the one who fell into the puddle, then their running together and appearing here now shows the solidarity between Jump, not letting Shizuku suffer alone. Even if she is working harder than ever now, the difference between now and then is that she has people that will support her, not just to put on a facade. As it goes into the final chorus, unlike the transitions before with all of Jump breaking into a sprint together, this one only features one of them, most likely representing Shizuku leading the way, and before the chorus repeats, we see the rest following. Even though Shizuku may have seemed to lead them into a puddle and fall down, unlike Cheerful Days who wouldn't hesitate to lash out at her, Jump will follow her and not lose faith, leading them to a brighter day. I think the passing of time before this can also represent the overwhelming efforts Shizuku puts in, working late into the nights and early into the mornings, as well as, of course, Haruka's mantra of hope for a better tomorrow. Finally, I want to bring attention to the petals that float in the choruses. In the first chorus, they gently float upwards, but while blue, I can't say this is distinctly Haruka nor Shizuku coloured as they are later in the 2DMV. They don't even look like petals, honestly, more like feathers. Which is why I think it actually relates back to that blue bird due to its significance having already been expressed by Shizuku herself in that Mizuki side story, symbolising hope and oncoming happiness and how they shouldn't give up. The feathers appear again in the final chorus, but this time they change with the background. It shows them leaving that puddle as the world changes to bright, cloudy skies again. The blue feathers before the transition represent hope that things will get better, and just like that, they do. After the transition, the feathers are replaced with petals in the colours of all of the More Jump members, just like in I Am, We Are. We also get another water droplet falling down into the puddle world with those blue feathers, or the world on the other side of the water's surface, meaning their reflection. As the camera goes through the floor, flipping back towards the surface, both sides are now filled with joy and confidence. I think this again represents needing the balance of both to feel contentment and to reach their goals, and of course, in Shizuku's case once again, means both her Chivalry Day self and modern self. It comes up again and again because that's just how central it is to her character, even in a story about an eyeshadow advert. In the final part of the chorus, asking, "Who's the leading actor, you ask?" The petals are Shizuku blue, even when the other 3 MMJ members on screen are saying, "You already know, right?" As everyone, including More Jump, must acknowledge and be captured by Shizuku's glorious glow. The song and MV embodies self-confidence and aura just like Shizuku does in this event story, and shows a major turning point in her characterization. Though I have so much to say on this in episodes 5 and 7, we might as well stop yapping about the song and just jump into it. The very beginning of the event is a lie. It's foreshadowing of what's to come. Her attitude here is one of comfort. She would later prove this to be simply untrue, but that's later. She also is doing it for the sake of everyone involved in More Jump, which is valiant, but as she's still focusing on everyone else first and foremost, she was destined to underperform specifically here. The flashback shows Saito delivering the news of the Grand Fleur offer, and more importantly, More Jump still want to hear Shizuku's own opinion. If she wants to, she can back out and reject it. This is that comforting support that she's so used to by now that she'll reflect on later. The dire situation of them still receiving no offers causes Shizuku to want to do more for the sake of them, immediately prompting Haruka to tell her not to pressure herself too much. Honestly, this can be kinda confusing as it's such a personal and kinda specific issue to Shizuku and any reader who can relate to it. If you're one of the people with mixed feelings about where this event is going on like a moral level, I want you to hold tight and just trust me that this is one of many examples, in my opinion, of Sekai writing at its best. Back at the audition, Shizuku is already expressing self-doubt when comparing herself to all the other auditionees, but this thought gets interrupted by you. No, not you, it's you from real life. Shizuku expresses relief at seeing a familiar face and Yu kinda takes offense at that. Their exchange is interrupted by... wait.
続いて、11番から15番の方、会場へ移動をお願いします。
Bruno Bucciaretti! They seem to have kind of forgotten his life 2D. Don't worry, I got this. Yu even reminds Shizuku that they're rivals here rather than fellow performers, which it seems like Shizuku is uncomfortable with the idea of. Likely down to not just a lack of self-confidence, but a lack of strong, desperate desire. No fighting spirit, so to speak. In the audition room, Shizuku sees Oikawa and remembers her previous work with him. In the flashback, he actually says she has too much presence and has to subdue it a bit by looking over her shoulder. And this is kinda subtle foreshadowing that she's already got the potential to win this, she just doesn't know what that is anymore. She keeps talking about trying her best, but she even acknowledges that expressing herself while standing motionless is still incredibly challenging, which if you think about it, is directly contradicting the having done everything she can, especially since this is an area that she has past experience in. To have that experience, she knows what she ought to know, yet still finds it incredibly challenging. More on that when it all hits her in episode 5. Unfortunately, though it'd be awesome to have live 2D for everyone, or even essentially card art for every model and pose here, this ain't an anime. It's just a weekly visual novel story. So it ends up having to tell it through Shizuku doing Speedwagon style JoJo commentary on what other characters are doing. It's one of the few things I can actually criticize Sekai storytelling for, especially in Vivid Bad Squad and Leo Need stories. But it's not so bad because the dialogue still tells us more about Shizuku's character in this story. It shows how impressed Shizuku is with all the other participants, even though the judges couldn't agree less. As Shizuku's turn comes up, she chooses to believe in herself, which would be enough in many stories. But this is Project SEKAI. We get way too real here. Oikawa even hypes her up as if he didn't invite her here in the first place. Shizuku arrives at the conclusion that the idea behind the product and advertisement is to have confidence in yourself, which is exactly what she currently doesn't have, and it shows. Though she gets more time in the limelight compared to previous auditionees, be it due to her still having some talent at this, natural beauty, or just Oikawa hoping to see some of that previous aura, she leaves with Oikawa kinda disappointed, even if the other judges were impressed. He can't help but think something has changed about her. This is a wonderful bit of misdirection in the writing. We're made to think that he's missing that cheerful days Shizuku, like that fake, built-up persona is what she's different to. It being left vague gives probably many readers that version of her as a red herring, and can probably end up contributing to mixed feelings about the event overall. But as if to bat that notion aside, Yu is up next. She's not presenting a facade at all, and yet easily surpasses Shizuku according to Oikawa's reaction. Again, it's all told through Shizuku's inner monologue, but we'll just have to keep begging for an anime till we get one. But it's not like it's useless text. Shizuku's thoughts show us that Yu is posing naturally and isn't pandering or yielding to anyone, whereas in Shizuku's thoughts, she did what she thought the panel wanted. Shizuku sees the difference between them as a blinding light, and that well describes how it feels to watch someone be really good at that thing you were supposed to be good at, to come face to face with your own inadequacy or complacency, which makes this quite similar to a certain Tsukasa event, but anyway, I'll say it again, more on that in episode 5. A week later, Shizuku successfully gets into the ad along with Yu, but in Sekai, Shizuku can't hide how she feels about it, and when questioned by Airi, she admits she's scared. Specifically, that she's going to ruin the ad. Obligatory shout out to the voice actors coming in. Listen to Airi's barely contained anger while still trying to smile.
ダメにするって、どうしてそんなこと思うのよ。
Airi trying to tell her that Shizuku not comparing to Yu is just ridiculous, has Shizuku just shake her head at her. It's the irrefutable truth that Yu is just better than her, and not by any small measure. All of this leads us to believe that Yu is some amazingly overpowered idol, which would really be a horrible idol trope for the new rivals that just happen to be that good to take place, when Momo Jump are already supposed to be practically legendary individuals. But it's just the way it's choosing to frame it for now, as that's how Shizuku currently sees it. More on that later, and I'm going to stop saying that now because yes, everything comes together from episode 5 onwards. We're definitely gonna yap a bit. Back to the present, all of Momo Jump want to help Shizuku in any way they can, but I want you to listen to the insane subtlety here in Shizuku's voice.
役に立てると思うよ。みんな、ありがとう。
In previous times that Shizuku thanks others for their support, like in the Cheerful Days flashbacks or other Momo Jump events, she sounds so overjoyed.
ありがとう。カイトさん、ありがとうございます。ありがとう。
But now, it's a lot lower in both pitch and volume, less excited, like all this comfort is becoming almost monotonous and taken for granted.
ありがとう。
What's really cool about this whole scene though, is that even though Shizuku did succeed with the audition, she's still feeling this way. Scared, inadequate, worried about her own performance, and yes, ruining the audition with herself. She already achieved her goal, and the goal Momo Jump tasked her with, so feeling this way even so, presents something that we haven't ever seen before with Shizuku. This is a matter of pride. It can seem so ridiculous from the outside, just like Airi starts to say, especially if you do admire that person, but to be that person? You know yourself, your potential, and most of all, even if you have to do some soul searching to find it, you know what you're not doing. Sometimes we can be our own worst critics, but other times, like how Shizuku just weakly shakes her head, we know when we're confronted with a hard truth. In episode 4, Shizuku turns up to the fitting and aims to do her best. When asked what was going through her mind in the audition, Yu just says she wanted to exceed everyone's expectations. Rather than telling confidence, like what Shizuku had in mind in the audition, Yu speaks it through action, and that resulted in a great amount of presence. Her confidence that this was the right way to go even plays further into that. What's fun is that Yu says this is how a top idol ought to be at all times. and says she's nowhere near that level even now. It feels like this is both her own mantra for personal success, but also a cheeky reminder to Shizuku that she really could be doing better. Like she already knows Shizuku's full potential and wants her to achieve it. If she's going to compete with Hinomori Shizuku, she'd want her rival to be at her best. I'm telling you, this is a shonen manga. During the fitting, Shizuku wants to get better and wants to think about how to strengthen her resolve. Just to quickly realise she has no idea how to do that. She excuses herself, apologising, but doesn't wait for any response as she shuts the door behind her. Like she really needs the air.
少し外の空気を吸ってきます。
Despite this, she runs into eavesdrop range of Oikawa, who admits that Shizuku is nowhere near as good as Yu is. He ends up saying he asked for Shizuku to be here, but is starting to think it might have been a mistake. We're given the idea that even 2 years ago, Shizuku shone brighter than Yu does today, and her simple reason was that she's the lead of Cheerful Days. He even says that people are different when they have something to lose. It's a bit on the nose, but it's exactly Shizuku's issue at the present moment. As Shizuku reflects on this, she realizes that she could be dropped from the ad and drag Momo Jump down, and more than anything, she'd hate that. She doesn't know how to get better, but you can hear the desperation in her voice clear as day.
しっかりしなくちゃ。
Finally, we reach episode 5, titled Me Back Then. And oh boy, we're gonna be here for a while. She knows what she has to do, but doesn't know how. And so, with Oikawa's unintentional hint, she looks towards recordings of herself from when she was in Cheerful Days, but...
Shizuku-chan?
Sorry, had to show that. It's too good. And this. After telling Miku what's happened and what she's thinking, she looks back at the Cheerful Days videos of just her practicing on her own, as usual trying to make sure she puts in the effort she deems necessary to not let anyone down. Of course, this can't happen without some Shizuku technical difficulties.
あら？つかないわ。
The video is from after her becoming the lead, and though Miku says it's obvious she's trying her best, it's also clear that Shizuku's not happy with it. This is when we see an emotion from Shizuku never before shown in Project SEKAI. Rage. It's purely internal. She's not mad at anyone from Cheerful Days, anyone in the room, or anyone else, just herself. Also, I know the translators are just doing their job of localizing to make things make sense to the average English reader, but the words feel so much more impactful in Japanese.
全然ダメだわ。今のままじゃ。もっとやらなくちゃ。
Zenzen means completely, all in a negative way, like not at all. Meaning, this result is 100% unacceptable. The localization is correct, but I just feel the original Japanese does convey stronger meaning here, especially in the latter part.
もっと。
Motto, which is just a single repeated word, a simple, almost primitive wording that exaggerates this desire to be better. It doesn't express necessarily using a different strategy or technique or going to study, it just means what it means. More. I don't know what else to do, I just need to do more of it. Of course, motto becomes the motto of Momo Jump thanks to Minori. This darker tone of it being internalized shows just how alone Shizuku was back then. But before it cuts to this, we have Shizuku looking back at the video nostalgically, and she finds it embarrassing because of how unrefined her technique was. At least, she was looking at it like that until that point. When the past her says all of that, she couldn't recognize herself, and alongside this untrained card art, Miku says,
このしずくちゃんもしずくちゃんだよ。
When I saw this line as a spoiler when looking at the card arts, I knew this event was going to be a banger. There's never much symbolism in untrained card arts, but alongside confirmation that Shizuku do love reading books, her expression is surprised. Naturally, there's some leftover shock from her reacting to her past self, but also with Miku reminding her that they're the same person, just like in the art. Shizuku needed to hear that. It sounds so obvious, maybe, but it can be easy to forget exactly what was going through your mind in a specific moment in the past, which now, Shizuku can try to remember. Shizuku reflects that back then, she felt she had to succeed no matter what, and Miku believes her strong resolve comes from that feeling. She remembers how desperate she had felt and why. She was clearly putting in all the work, and though Arisa and the others would be on standby to help, she wasn't proud of that. As the lead, she should be the one supporting everyone, not the other way around. And we get that callback to not being the right person to lead Cheerful Days. And with the context of this event, feels pretty ironic. As she meets with her junior idols, she feels a strong sense of responsibility for protecting their dreams and futures. She may be afraid of the stakes, but nevertheless, she has to do it. She has to lead. So the pressure led her to improve dramatically. And this can seem bad? That's typically how this kind of narrative goes, and indeed, we see that pressure leading her to her breaking point in the flashbacks of Shizuku5, as well as the main story. But we're looking at it from a completely different perspective now, and Shizuku expresses it well.
きっと私はモアマージャンプに入ってから甘えていたのね。モアマージャンプのみんなもファンのみんなもありのままの私を受け入れてくれたわ。だからこそ今の私がある。けれど同時に一人で頑張らなくてもいい。みんなで頑張ろうって言ってもらえるようになって。そんな環境に私自身が甘えてしまって、あの頃の気持ちをなくしてしまっていたんだわ。
She does go on, but this is all we need. Have you ever felt like you've done everything you can only to realize you haven't? It's easy to say you've done your best, but if you really break it down, did you? Did you spend as much time not only working on the issues, but finding them too? Did you sacrifice anything to make more time for your goal, or were you actually just doing enough to meet your quota? Were you doing what was expected, or were you aiming to exceed expectations? I know I'm guilty of this even right now. It's so easy to grow complacent once you've found that place or role you think you belong in. The truth is that we never truly reach the finish line or arrive at happiness. We have to keep moving towards it, or life will catch up with us, one way or another. Just as it has with Shizuku in this moment, and it goes even further. Looking back at your past self and realizing they were doing so much better hurts. To feel that time you spent not working that hard or practicing that much brings some tough pills to swallow. If I never stopped, I'd be amazing right now. I could be fluent in a language right now. I could be one of the best at this right now. But in reality, we, for one reason or another, stopped. Feeling jealous of your old self is quite a feeling, isn't it? Probably the easiest wake-up call for this complacency is watching someone else doing it right or better, and in Shizuku's case, it was you who forced her to have this realization. The character, we're not doing this joke again. She goes on, inspired by what fueled her in the past.
あの頃と同じ。いいえ、それ以上の覚悟を持って、このお仕事に向き合うわ。今度は私が、モアモアジャンプを引っ張っていく。そういう覚悟で、もっとがむしゃらに自分を磨かなくちゃ。そして、誰にも負けないくらい輝いて、及川さんたちの期待を超えてみせるわ。絶対に。
We'll get more into Shizuku's attitude change over the next few episodes, but this mantra and visualization is not quite the same as her desperation and responsibility she was showing earlier, both as the Cheerful Days leader and just earlier in this event story. Back then, she did things because she had to, for the sake of the group, whichever one that was, and with the sake of others at the forefront of her mind. But these new self-assurances are bold claims about herself. She will lead, she will shine brighter, she will succeed, she will pierce the heavens, she will become the god of this new world! Okay, sorry, we're getting too shonen-y. Shizuku will do this because she wants to be that good again, and almost now as a side effect, doesn't want to let Momo jump or Oikawa down. It's maybe hard to relate to complacency because the line between working hard and overworking is so fine, but even finer is one between doing well and doing enough. It's not as simple as hard work good. It's not as generic as not doing enough. It's recognizing and knowing that you could definitely be doing more. It's not necessarily laziness nor a lack of effort, but a lack of drive. It's natural for anyone who cares about you to worry about overworking yourself. And no one wants to see Shizuku working herself to death, especially if you're worried about her repeating the mistakes of Cheerful Days. But to be that person is to be met with overwhelming evidence that you're simply not doing enough. Again, it's a fine line, and most would err on the side of caution, but the following regrets of what could have been can be infuriating. Working hard is great, and working too hard isn't. But that isn't a reason to not try and work our hardest if we can manage it. Episode 6 shows her training in action. She's taking notes, trying things, evaluating, and is just totally locked in. Also, her needle and thread metaphor is totally in character for her. And also, another nod to Shizuku5, especially since she's trying to find that precarious balance between her old self and her new self. During this, she realizes that while needing that tension, she had none when competing against you in the audition. She sees the words she said as shameful and disrespectful, as well as seeing this as part of her massive strides for self-improvement, and it also feels like a callback to her flashbacks in Shizuku5.
本当は違う人にやってもらった方が。ふざけないでよ。それは分かってないでしょ。バックダンサー扱いされてる私たちのことなんて。もう二度とあんな気の抜けた態度は見せない。
Listen to her voice, dude. There's a skip of 3 days, and by now, we realize that she was alone at the Mormor House practice room at who knows what time of day. Airi is just watching from the sidelines as Shizuku basically talks to herself out loud.
悪くないわ。でも、もっと。
Literally, not bad, but more. The line is also delivered with such a tone that sounds so objective yet simple. It's hard to describe, but it's like she really is just thinking out loud while criticizing herself. Like she already knows what she means by just motto. She doesn't need to go into detail. She knows that she needs more. Minori and Haruka are surprised to see Shizuku already here, since she already stayed back at the Mormor house pretty late last night. Airi does assure them that she's setting aside time to rest, but even Airi isn't sure she's getting enough sleep. As Minori tries to talk to Shizuku, Airi just calmly tells her to stop. Airi describes that Shizuku is spending all of her time working towards this goal, and we really mean all of it. From her time here, time at school, apparently time she could have spent sleeping, and she's working out and dieting. Remember how we said the first part of this event story is basically a lie? She'd done everything she could? No, she hadn't. She could have been doing all of this. This is truly what it means to give it your all. And stop right there. While this is what helps Shizuku glow brighter and fly higher than anyone, and it is worthy of admiration and is fine to celebrate, Shizuku is doing this for an exceptional circumstance where her group and her career's reputation are on the line. I think it's more than fine to feel inspired by Shizuku and this event story, but the potential growth they could have gotten here from her performing exceptionally well in this particular opportunity is massive, and so this is very, very important to them. We've all lost a little sleep here and there when things we're working on are important to us, and Tira's, I think you know a thing or two about that. No! And so while Shizuku going the extra mile is very cool, part of pushing yourself to do your best also means keeping yourself in your best condition. If you're not about to do some career-altering mission with a time restraint, then take care of yourself, get good sleep, and eat well. Airi's description is also kind of vague. Dieting doesn't necessarily mean just calorie restriction and that's it. And we can see in the side stories that, at very least, what Airi, Haruka, and Minori come up with while supporting Shizuku is nutritionally sound. So it's not like Shizuku's dying for this. If we focus on what's presented to us in the story, we get to see that insane work ethic Shizuku is known to have, but finally it's been presented to us fully, not just a mention on the side. The point is, yes, you can always check if you're really giving something your best shot, but you can scale it to your own situation. You do not need to go fully all in and sacrifice sleep every day for everything. Haruka and Airi both talk about how they've seen Shizuku like this before, but this isn't what we might have thought old Shizuku could be described as. Before Shizuku5, we had been made to think that old Shizuku was just a fake persona. Yet Airi and Haruka talk about her previous presence like a thing of beauty, something to be admired. That's where this event is so different from Shizuku3, which focused on that persona of hers. Shizuku5 makes zero mention of it. This presence that Oikawa notices, or notices the lack of, the way she works behind the scenes back then, and the absolute determination she mustered in Cheerful Days wasn't propelled by her persona. These are all things that simply came from Shizuku's skills and efforts, and Airi and Haruka never doubted that. Those assumptions the nameless Cheerful Days members made about her before, and even how the imposter syndrome took a hold of her in the flashbacks of Shizuku3, are even more invalidated by this realization. If people were always so enamored by her aura, and that didn't come from the Cheerful Days persona, then who really was responsible for Shizuku's success back then? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Additionally, why Shizuku working hard now is better than her working in Cheerful Days is because she has more jump. Back then, she took on too much work and burned out. She had support that she wasn't taking for granted, but it was shallow support that only seeks to help her public image. Now, she has the best kind of support she could ever ask for. Her choosing to be almost self-centered now is ironically one of the kindest things she can do to give back to Momo Jump in order to not undervalue their unending support, and together they can reach new heights. And then we reach episode 7, appropriately titled Aura. Shizuku's opening lines are telling, to say the least.
いよいよね。今度こそ。やれることは全部やったわ。あとは、すべてを出し切るだけ。
The line highlights the difference between doing the best you can and doing your best. And her expression and how Miku attempts to come in to help only to realize that won't be necessary is just great. Though Shizuku still admires you and her progress between the audition and now, she's not drawing comparisons anymore. She probably already knows she, Shizuku, is better after all. Obligatory voice actor praise. Here's the scenes back to back of her at the audition and then her appearing at the shoots.
14番、Hinomori Shizuku です。よろしくお願いします。はい。準備、できました。
Has she ever sounded that serious? With a deliberate breath to ground herself, she calmly approaches the moment of truth.
これで、すべてが決まる。私がこの CM でどんな立ち位置になるのかも。そして、モアモアジャンプのこれからも。だから、この一瞬にすべてを込める。私の目で、唇で、指で、この体すべてで、今までにない私を表現する。そして、みんなの記憶に刻み込む。日の森雫の、圧倒的な存在感を。
Right here. I don't know if I'm just imagining it when it's paired with the story in a monologue, but Shizuku's gaze is astoundingly captivating. Even though it's just, you know, the same live 2D animation we've seen for years. Her next lines really spell out just how this isn't the same as the overworking she did in Cheerful Days.
今の私は、あの頃とは違う。グループを背負わされてるわけじゃない。みんなで荷物を分け合いながら、一緒に歩いている。でも、今は、私自身が、背負いたいと思ってる。モアモアジャンプの、みんなの未来を。
And so, we reach the Untrained card art for Shizuku. The BGM that plays for this is just perfect, it's amazing. Alongside the animated glints and lights, her set is decorated with droplets hanging from the ceiling, glistening in the light. While this is a choice of the in-universe staff, the droplet symbol is still worthy of note. I think I've seen so many comments and reactions from a year ago asking how this is an untrained card art, more than any other. The trained card art is about metaphor and how far Shizuku and Momo Jump can travel as a group, but the untrained card art, as always, is just an accurate representation of what the story wants to tell. This piercing gaze is exactly what everyone watching, recording, and witnessing the making of the advert saw. Simply Hinomori Shizuku at her very best. Also, no matter how many times I loop this BGM, I have no idea what words are being sampled. They might not be words at all. Finally, we get Shizuku's take on what an aura even is.
オーラ、そう呼ばれるものの正体は、私にはわからないわ。でも、きっとそれは、果てしない努力と、揺るぎない覚悟を極めた人が放つ、輝き。なら、もっといける。すべてを背負うと覚悟して、努力を重ねた今なら、もっと、私は、誰よりも輝く。
Oh. Well, I'll tell you, the translator didn't have the resolve to not mess this up. I'll assume they either meant to put a comma there, an and connective there, or shine just isn't supposed to be there. Either way, she says she should be able to outshine anyone. Once again, this description of aura has absolutely no trace of neither natural beauty, talent, nor apparent perfection. She has entirely foregone the notion that her aura in Cheerful Days had anything to do with the persona the staff had constructed for her, annihilating her self-doubt. What she's saying is essentially that aura is about being unwaveringly prepared for action, not only through mental preparation and strength of will, but also by putting in that excessive amount of time and effort to back it up. Someone who can't be knocked by the weight of their resolve, and someone who always seems to perform so well is someone you can rely on. A leader who's put in the time to navigate the best path forward, yet will press on no matter what. That's what it meant to lead Cheerful Days, and so too is what it means to lead More Jump. She doesn't stop at outshining you. She outshines all other idols everywhere. She will soar higher than Haruka, Airi, and even Minori. Like, she stole her Angel Wing theme and flew higher with them. The voice acting here is the most determined we have ever heard Shizuku to be, and as always, not only is this visualization to reach her goal, but it's how she truly feels. Of course, Oikawa is more than impressed, and says this far surpasses what she had achieved in Cheerful Days. It's because her resolve comes from positive feelings with More Jump instead of negative feelings with Cheerful Days that she's able to farm aura this hard. Also, I just love how anime and overdramatic this all is. Though then again, Shizuku literally aura farmed for 3 episodes straight, and now everyone's in awe of her power level. She was key charging for 3 episodes. This is literally Dragon Ball! Yu, once again, mentions that Shizuku seemed completely different from how she was in Cheerful Days, and this explains her comments from earlier in the story. And the next lines confirm something cool.
やっぱり日の森さんは、あの日の森雫、チアでの一時代を築いたセンターだったんだって思いました。
I feel like this alludes to, whereas fellow Relight member Akari was a huge fan of Airi, maybe Yu is a huge fan of Shizuku. As far as I'm aware, this has yet to be confirmed though. Speaking of alluding, Yu stops herself from saying she won't lose next time, so if and when that happens, she'll have probably improved a ton. The final episode is mostly just More Jump being goofy, especially Minori and Saito, as they wait to watch Shizuku's ad go live. It's also where Minori's card art appears. Minori doesn't hold back her exasperation, even glinting with stars, but I've always liked this subdued appreciation from Airi, gripping her clothes and barely smiling from probably a ton of nerves and excitement, leading to see her favourite idol appear. No one else shows, including Saito, because she got a little too excited. She's the best NPC, I swear. The ad works and More Jump is on people's minds again. And they all have Shizuku to thank. Instead of deflecting, crediting some persona, or brushing it aside any other way, she just accepts it, making a major turning point in Shizuku's character arc as her imposter syndrome is left behind and she can face forward, leading the race with confidence with no sign of stopping. I've always thought this cool, confident expression is rarely seen on Shizuku, but we see it so much in this event story that it just hits so much harder because of it. And so ends Grow Glorious Glow. Taking everything in, I never thought I'd relate so hard to a story about eyeshadow, but here we are. The idea of stagnation and growing complacent is written so realistically that it can't help but strike a chord with someone who's gone through or is going through that. I genuinely think this kind of writing is Sekai at its best, just like Haruka 2, just like Tsukasa 3, just like Mizu 5. The subject matter can be crazy specific, and yet resonates so powerfully when it does. Shizuku5 explores the flip side of her being accepted by MMJ and the fans by showing what getting too comfortable can do to you. It's not that she became incompetent suddenly, she still got through the audition, but seeing what you could be doing when your competition gets ahead can start such a fire in you, and as you look back and realize what could have been, it's never too late to start again. If there's anything you feel like you used to do and still, somewhere in you, still want to try and be good at, try again. You don't need to go to the lengths Shizuku's gone to unless your career's on the line, but there's always so many ways to push yourself forward, fly ever higher, and grow that glorious glow. Thank you for watching. This will probably be the last overanalysis before the new year since these always take time. I'm sorry, I just had to leave that in because I apparently wanted this video to be done before Christmas, and that was certainly a plan. I'll retake from here like 5 minutes later. There was a long wait between this video and last video, and that was mostly down to a ton of activity on my main channel and, ironically, burning out. However, after some smart shifting of priorities and a decent break for once, I'm now also ready to start growing a glorious glow, like by finishing off this video and working on the next one in much better time. I have some ideas for other groups and events to cover in this series and other videos to do as well, but I would also like to know which groups and events you guys would love to have featured on the series in the comments below. As always, please let me know any thoughts or impressions of the event you had yourself, as I have been loving looking through those on the other videos, and speaking of which, check those out if you haven't already. But now I say thanks again for watching, happy aura farming, and I'll see you in the next video. And I'm thinking of looking at the events that revealed Sekai's greatest antagonist, but we'll see. Take care.